What happens when the future of teamwork collides with the power of AI? That's the question at the heart of today's conversation with my guest Tiffany from Atlassian. And she's joining me at the perfect time because as you're listening to this episode, Atlassian is also taking centre stage in Barcelona for their Team 25 event. What's the theme at Team? See what I did there? The theme is Unleash what AI-powered teams can do. And essentially, it's a showcase of innovations that are designed to fuel the future of human and AI collaboration and offer a chance to see how their tools are shaping tomorrow's workplace and how they're being built right now. And Tiffany is going to be bringing a front row perspective on how Atlassian's mission to unleash the potential of every team is translating into real-world action. So from the evolution of their cloud platform to the bold decision to sunset data center products, she'll explain how continuous change is reshaping enterprise IT. And we'll also explore Atlassian's unique teamwork graph, why it stands apart in the industry and how AI is woven into its DNA. So it can help customers ultimately work smarter, not harder. So you can expect stories of customers transforming outcomes, fresh insights on Atlassian's system of work, and take a look ahead at collaborations like their partnership with the browser company. Lots to talk about there. So if you've ever wondered what the future of collaboration looks like when cloud, AI, and teamwork all converge, Tiffany is going to bring it all to life today. So, enough from me. Let's get Tiffany onto the podcast now. So, thank you for joining me on the podcast today, Tiffany. Can you share a little bit about who you are, your role at Atlassian, and also what excites you most about the company's current direction? Because there's so much going on this week, isn't there?
Indeed. And thanks so much for having me, Neil. I lead our enterprise and platform teams in Atlassian, and we're charged with driving the company's key transformations. So that means bringing all our customers to be able to leverage AI and bringing that all together into a really powerful system of work to run their businesses. So it's definitely something that gets me very excited. Nearly all of my 23 years in tech has been partnering with customers to harness the latest technology to achieve their business goals faster. So I've worked on supercomputers at SGI. I saw your t-shirt. I worked on virtualization at VMware. I worked on cloud at Nutanix, but AI is definitely taking things to a whole nother level for all businesses. And what's clear is that AI is requiring companies to rethink, right, all their systems, all their ways of working, and they've got to re-envision that all in an AI-first way. So having strong platforms are a really key part of that. And that's why the investments we've been making over the last 7 years in our Atlassian cloud platform with connected data and integrations and seamless collaboration, making it enterprise grade. That's a lot of what my teams and I work on. And we think it's really important to help our customers, especially in a time now where they're enabling their AI strategies.
And I know how incredibly busy you are this week with the event. And earlier this year, I was very fortunate to attend the Atlassian event in Anaheim. And one of my big takeaways was this mission that Atlassian's on to unleash the potential of every team through technology. So how do you see that work coming to life in your work? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's quite an ambitious mission, huh?
Yeah.
The potential of every team, I think, is what gets everyone really excited at Atlassian. And I think it's what makes our mission particularly unique because it's not about building a technical tool just to do a particular function. I think we really feel the mission is about enabling the entire organization and all the different functions in that organization. And that's why for the last couple of years, you've heard us talk about the system of work. And the system of work is really our commitment to building with a philosophy that connects the business teams to the technology teams to maximize their collective impact. And I think that's something that's easier said than done because it's not just about, like I said, the tools, it's not just about the people, the process, it's all of those things, right? And now with AI, it's re-envisioning all of that together. But I think that's really important because it means that we take a very opinionated stance on how we build, right? And how we architect all of the pieces to fit together. And that philosophy comes through, right? We want to make sure that teams are aligning their work to the right goals, up and down the organization and across the organization. We want teams cross-functionally to be able to plan and track work together cohesively as an organization. And we want them to be able to harness knowledge effectively as an organization. So we were building to this over the many years of Atlassian before AI came along. And now with AI, you have another teammate, right? So it's helping those teams work together, but now you've got AI as a true teammate and giving that AI teammate context and purpose to do all these things together in a team becomes even more important.
And as you said there, AI is getting all the headlines at the moment. There's a lot we're going to be talking around AI in a few moments. But before we do, Atlassian has also made significant investments in its cloud platform. So of course, if we zoom out here, what are the biggest benefits for enterprise customers moving to cloud today? Because there's a lot of talk, but I think it's those benefits and ROI, etc. That's what a lot of people listening will want to hear about. So tell me more about that and what you've achieved here.
Yeah, it's a good question, Neil, because cloud is something that everyone has felt has been inevitable the last decade, but it's taken time to really build robust cloud platforms that deliver that ROI that you talked about, and that work for every customer and their particular requirements, right? The level of scale, complexity, security requirements across our 300,000 customers at Atlassian. That is a big challenge. And so it's something that we've been working on very consistently for the last 7 years. And so I'm quite proud that over the last couple of years, we've reached a point now where we've got 80% of the Fortune 500 that are now using the cloud platform. And when you zoom in on even the most complex and most regulated customers, we have 3/4 of them that have already started on that path to cloud. Here in Europe, I think OVO Energy and TBC Bank are two of those. And I think that's important because customers are always pushing the envelope, right? You get onto cloud and then they start to come up with new use cases. And it's important for us to continue to evolve those things. And so just to go through a few of the new areas that we're announcing. For example, we've entered into a partnership with Google and the Google Cloud Platform team. So that means we're now enabling multi-cloud strategies. And many customers are not employing this. So this is a really important piece for us to enable customers on. And what that means is that Atlassian's core cloud apps, including Jira Service Management, Confluence, and Loom, they're going to soon all be hosted on the Google Cloud, in addition to our existing Amazon Web Services offering. So our thinking is that by combining Google Cloud's extensive global reach with Atlassian's trusted platform, we're just going to make it all the more easier for organizations to adopt our teamwork solutions because they've got this multi-cloud approach. Additionally, on the government and regulated industry side, we obviously have our commercial cloud solution, but as I mentioned, some of those really regulated customers, they need other things. So for our US customers, public sector and their partners, we announced the Atlassian Government Cloud. And so what that means is we've got FedRAMP Moderate as an authorized solution, and we're going to expand our support for the U.S. government organizations with investments in FedRAMP High and IL5 as well. And for our European customers and beyond, we've built Atlassian Isolated Cloud. And that's a single tenant option with isolated compute, storage, and networking. And so that gives customers ultimate control. And so for ones that have those really stringent requirements, we know a lot of those in EMEA customers that are in those regulated segments, that's going to be a really good option. So that's starting in 2026 is when it'll become generally available in every Atlassian supported region, including here in Europe.
And I love how Atlassian is evolving here, especially to adapt to this world of continuous change that we're all trying to navigate through. And I've got to ask, what was it that drove the decision to sunset the data center products? And how are you supporting some of your customers through this transition? So I would imagine that could be quite daunting as well. But as you said, you've got to keep evolving and keep changing as our needs continuously change too.
Yes, and that's a particularly good question as I'm talking to you here from Poland, where our data center team resides. And making that decision was a big one, right?
Yeah.
It was not an easy one, but it's one that we've been working towards for quite a long time. As we were just talking about, we've been evolving the cloud platform to be able to handle all of our customers. And so that was definitely a key part of the decision. Also, seeing how customers are benefiting from cloud once they get onto the platform, that's also helped us think about when the right timing is for this. So why now? Well, it's a bit of what we started our conversation on. It's really about AI. So as customers are thinking through how to transform their organizations with AI, cloud is a huge part of that equation, and platforms are a really big part of that equation, right? It's going to be ultimately a system of multiple platforms that customers put together to create all these AI powered workflows and run their organizations with. And so knowing that there is so much upside for customers as they build on AI in the cloud, and knowing that our cloud platform at this stage, especially with things like isolated cloud, enables pretty much all of our customers now to move to cloud, we felt, okay, it's the right time to do it. But to your question, it's not just a point and click, right? As we talked about, if they're going to be transforming those workflows with AI, it's going to require deep partnership. And so I'm really excited about that. Like I said at the top of our call, that's been most of my career, is deeply partnering with customers to help them kind of leverage the latest technologies, but also realize real business value from this. And so I think that as we launch this Ascend program, a big part of this journey is continuing to strengthen our relationships between Atlassian and our customers to help guide them alongside partners helping them through this journey.
And before you joined me today, I was doing a little research, getting back up to speed with all things Atlassian. I was reading about AI and Teamwork Graph. And Teamwork Graph is described online as Atlassian's unique advantage. So tell me more about that and what it is, and also the kind of benefits that it brings to customers too.
Well, I love that question because I love the Teamwork Graph. And so you will have to hold me back. I could go on for like an hour on this. And it honestly comes back to the customer again. When I joined Atlassian 6 years ago and I was talking to our customers about what they love about what we deliver, but also what are we not delivering for them that they would love to see, one of the threads that was consistent and that customers use Atlassian as this core system of record, right? They put their most important plans into our system. They track the most important projects, right, to realize their business goals into our systems. And they consistently told me that they didn't feel like it was very easy to organize that data and get insights out of it to understand if teams were being effective or how they could help their teams go faster, the pace of work, right? All of those things. And so they were often having to take that data out of Atlassian, put it into a data lake, use a whole bunch of tools to try and munge it and get insights. And oftentimes they weren't getting to the insights they needed. So really the Teamwork Graph was us looking kind of broader into market at the solutions that other technology companies were taking on. And so when you think about companies like Meta and what they do for Facebook and the social graphs that they build to be brilliant at recommending things, sometimes too brilliant, you really want to buy this right now. And it's like, oh no, I didn't, but okay, I do. And it's like, how did they know that? All of that kind of connections of data and relationships, that is in a graph, right? So it's less about having all this structured data organized. It's actually about managing the relationships and connections between the data to be predictive about what's going to be useful and effective for certain queries. And so the Teamwork Graph was us taking that and applying it to a very different context, not social information, but teamwork. And so what we do with the Teamwork Graph is we connect together data about who's working on what, how that work is going. We bring in third-party tool data because we know for customers when they're building a system, it's not just our tools, it's them using a whole host of development tools, using other platforms, maybe it's Salesforce, maybe it's ServiceNow. And so bringing all that data together and mapping those relationships in the Teamwork Graph, you now have this data intelligence layer that allows you to unify and derive a lot of that insight. And so it's not about aggregating the data. The Teamwork Graph actually understands the rhythms of how your particular teams work. And I think that's very exciting because it means that as you keep adding integrations, you keep using it, it actually gets richer. And at this point, our Teamwork Graph has 23 billion work objects. A work object is something like a Jira work item or a Confluence page or an Asana task, a GitHub repo. And it weaves together from all those objects 84 billion unique relationships. And that now allows you to fuel these context-rich, personalized experiences. So a lot of the Teamwork Graph things that you're going to hear us talk about are features like search, where with our AI Rovo chat, you can go find things, not just based on how things are organized, but it knows what Neil has been working on, what Neil's team has been working on. And so it's going to be really good at providing personalized results, not just for search, but also every experience that you encounter into our system. So it may recommend a new task for you to work on based on projects that you've worked on, for example. And part of what we're going to be announcing is that we're opening that Teamwork Graph up. So it's not just about that graph powering these great experiences inside our own apps and our platform, but we want it to be leveraged by the ecosystem. So we're actually allowing developers in Forge to be able to have the opportunity to leverage that graph. They can add their own data into the graph, create new objects, connect data with it, build custom apps and agents. And so the possibilities are endless. But I think the real takeaway is that, a graph is great for social stuff, but it's even more powerful when we bring teamwork into it, because we can now empower a company to kind of work the way that they want, but do it in a supercharged way.
And as we talk today, we're rapidly approaching the third anniversary since ChatGPT first dropped. And over the last 3 years, everyone's gone AI crazy. There's AI everywhere. That's the big topic. This year's been about agentic AI and agents, etc. So from your side here, what does Atlassian's approach, how does that differ from others in the industry? There's so many different examples. It feels like everyone's tagging AI on. But what makes you different, would you say?
Well, I think that question coming after our discussion on the Teamwork Graph is appropriate, because it's really about the teams and the teamwork. I think for Atlassian, we are very focused on how these multiple functions work together. And so by having the Teamwork Graph ground our AI features and capabilities, it means that when we're thinking about how we construct the building blocks for customers to create these AI workflows on, they're always coming from that lens of how to enable the whole team to work together more effectively. And I think that's important, because it means that it's not just about turbocharging one person and their individual tasks. It's thinking about the larger mission of whether it's one team or many teams or hundreds of teams. And I'll bring up a customer example. Royal Caribbean. What's cool about having 300,000 customers is like they're in every single industry. So Royal Caribbean is an awesome customer that is leveraging the Teamwork Graph, and they're able to see the effect on AI. They're unifying knowledge from Atlassian's tools, but also Microsoft SharePoint and OneDrive. And so they're giving employees now access to actionable insights from across all these tools, right? And that is what we hear consistently is challenging for customers. They want to give their teams all the best tools, right? And so you end up with this tool proliferation. I think the average organization has over 150 different tools. And so then end users are overwhelmed, right? You've got all these different tools, you've got data in all these different places. And so this is where the Teamwork Graph, can zoom out, and it knows what Neil's goals are, who his team is, what projects he's working on. And when you search for something, you're not having to go to 10 different places. It brings that together for you. And that's why we're seeing Rovo Search really take off. We are serving over 3 million users regularly. And part of that, I think, is taking that lens of zooming out from individual tools and really focusing on helping both the individual and the team work together more effectively. And I think that's what's unique about our AI approach.
And something I try and do every day on this podcast is take something that people hear a lot about, try and demystify it and understand what it could or how it could impact their work and what they can do differently. And one phrase I'm hearing a lot about at the moment is system of work. So what does Atlassian mean by a system of work? And why do you think it is so important for modern organizations? And how are new platform apps, collections, etc., how is all this helping teams work more effectively?
Yeah, the system of work, and the name is generic by design, right?
Yeah.
As we talk to customers, we realize that's what they were each building, right? They were using our tools, they're using other tools, and essentially they're creating their own platform, their own system to enable work in their organizations. And I think because for Atlassian, our mission is unleashing the potential of every team, we really wanted to make this conscious commitment to that philosophy I talked about earlier, that belief that if we can enable the technical teams and the business teams to work together more effectively, you're going to have the best system of work, right? And so that philosophy allows us then to help these organizations create their optimal system of work, right? And what that means is within our platform, we're creating these, I think of them as little Lego building blocks, right? My son loves Legos, and it's amazing what you can build when you have all these generic pieces, but they kind of have purpose as well. And so within our system of work, we have a core set of platform apps, right? And those platform apps are kind of, I think of those as the core Lego building blocks. So for example, one of those apps is goals. What we found through a lot of our research across our customers is when teams aren't aligned on what goals they're working towards, or it's just not clear which goals are most important, that's when a lot of challenges would come up in communication and efficiency in their work. So goals ends up being this core app in our platform in the system of work that is used not just by our first party apps. And so Jira has goals show up in Jira, Confluence has goals show up. So throughout our system, goals is there, but our partners can also build and our customers can also build with that platform app. Alongside goals, we have other apps like Teams, Home. You're going to hear us announce a couple of new ones, projects, as well as assets. And assets is particularly exciting to me because it's where customers track, manage, and visualize all the stuff, right? Hardware, code, even office supplies, lab supplies, whatever. So you can start to see that like all these platform apps are just, they're building blocks, but they're opinionated, right? And because they're opinionated, it helps you kind of go from that clean slate, but it still gives you that flexibility to build exactly the system of work you want. Because as we work with our customers, there's no one perfect system of work, right? There's no template that I can bring into a customer. I was meeting with Expedia last week, and it's like they're building an amazing system of work. But it's not like I can bring in a template and just say, Expedia, follow this. This is the super turbocharged version. What I can do is say, look, here are some practices that I know work well for other modern organizations. And they can start to pick and choose what makes sense for them and their particular culture and their ways of working. And then they've got the teamwork graph, as we talked about, underlying that platform that's going to continue to scale and grow and amass knowledge and connect all that knowledge adapted to exactly the way they work. So I think of it as Atlassian's way of helping customers unleash the potential of teams, but doing it in a way where customers can balance both flexibility, best practices, and a really strong platform that can power all these AI experiences. Because as you can imagine, you have all these building blocks, but it's not just humans that are going to be interacting with these building blocks now, it's agents, right? And so one of the really cool things that we're starting to see right now is in these systems of work that customers are building, our customers are unleashing the agents, right? These agents are now using those building blocks, creating workflows, automating all these workflows. And that means they're getting some pretty amazing results. So maybe I'll mention one of them. Mercedes-Benz has 50,000 users.
Wow.
Yeah, in EMEA, and they have immensely complex needs. They have really high standards. That's why we love their products. And with their system of work on Atlassian Cloud Enterprise, They've been able to measure that their performance has increased by 10x. They've boosted collaboration across over 260 teams. So when we think about unleashing the potential of teams, 260 teams is pretty phenomenal. And even more importantly, because of having these building blocks and having AI, they've now shifted 80% of their admin resources from service to now doing more innovation, right? So creating new apps or creating new workflows, doing other things that are more additive than kind of a lot of the ongoing management that they were doing previously on the data center on-premise version of our products.
And we've talked a lot around the technical aspects from cloud to AI and innovation, etc. But I love bringing home the real value that this technology can bring. And one of the things I was reading about was your partnership with the browser company. Sounds incredibly intriguing. Tell me more about that. And are there any other inspiring customer stories that you've seen recently that just brings to life the difference that technology can make?
Yeah, the browser company one is pretty exciting. And really, it's about, as we've been talking about, where all these workflows are going with AI, right? And how modern teamwork happens. I think when we think about the average knowledge worker, they're spending time in these different SaaS tools, but what is common is the browser. We're still all using a browser. But what's funny is the browser really hasn't evolved very much, right? It's not very smart, right? I think the average worker has 10 to 20 tabs open at Atlassian. It feels like 100 sometimes. But all these tabs, they're often like, they're not connected. There isn't knowledge of who's using it, what they're using it for. And so it's kind of a bit of a dumb workspace, right? It doesn't have that context. And so for us, with the browser company, we've been very excited about what they've built with their particular browsers. And when we think about re-envisioning an AI-powered workspace for knowledge workers, we think about imagining a browser that's not just a window of tabs to your apps, but an active participant, right? What if you could enrich every tab with context, as we were just talking about with the teamwork graph, right? Knowledge of what Neil's working on. What if it could connect your workflows together and help you actually take action and move work forward because agents are there configuring automation workflows? And what if you could do all of that securely, right? Because it's in a browser container. And so that's really why we're excited about the browser company. We see it as a way for us to bring some really amazing talent into the company that has built some great tools for knowledge workers, but we see it as something that we can now pair and integrate into our platform with the teamwork graph to kind of re-envision a new workspace that's going to be AI powered.
And as we look to the future there, we're only, a couple of months away from 2026. How do you see the future of teamwork evolving with AI and the cloud right at the heart of this? And also, what's next for Atlassian? What should customers and partners be looking out for? Any teasers there?
Well, I think what you're hearing already with all of these announcements is that we're really committed to empowering every team, right? With secure, AI-powered, and connected tools. I think those are the key themes. And we really want to help all of our customers thrive in this rapidly changing world. Like AI is both exciting, but it's also a little scary, right? Everyone's having to rethink all their workflows, rethink what tools and what platforms they need to integrate. And so I think one of the really important takeaways that we want to drive across to our customers is that we're here to partner with them, right? We're here to help them build a system that works for them. And I think in an AI-powered world, it's kind of up to them to dream up anything. And I think what becomes very exciting as we think about this next wave is that more and more of these solutions are going to become adaptive and customizable to our customers, right? So a lot of our customers are very opinionated about what they like or don't like about certain things in our tools. Over time, you can imagine they're going to be able to customize and make that exactly the way they want. And I think that's particularly exciting. And the announcement that we've talked about today really are just the beginning, right? We're continuing to release more and more building blocks. Those building blocks get organized into collections that customers are purchasing. But because we're making all of this extensible, the teamwork graph is extensible, Rovo allows agents to be extensible. it's really going to be something that they can architect. And I think that's what's really powerful is I am already like impressed every time I talk to a customer and I see the system of work they've built today with our tools. And then when I think about this new set of building blocks I'm giving them and the potential for them to build something 10 times more amazing, I think a lot of the future is going to be shaped by our customers and their dreams for what they want their system of work to be. And that's what I'm excited about.
And one of the things that I've personally loved about talking with you today is, yes, we're talking about technology, but it's not AI that has stole the show today. The three words that we've both repeatedly used is the need to rethink, to change and evolve. And I think there's a real pressure on us all to be in a state of continuous learning to adapt to these things that we're seeing. So I've got to ask, as someone that's leading the way here, where or how do you self-educate? Any tips or advice or anything you do to keep up to speed with the pace of change?
Sure. Well, obviously, we're all listening to amazing podcasts like yours to digest all the information. That is super helpful. But for me, I think as a product leader, I always go back to my toughest customers, right? And it's like over my 23 years, it's always the ones that are the most unhappy, that complain the most. There's something there. They're usually the ones pushing the boundaries. And like I said at the beginning, it's what has inspired our system of work, has inspired our teamwork graph. A lot of things that we're innovating now that can help all of our customers came from probably some of the toughest customers that were telling me, hey, Atlassian's not doing this for us. And so I always find that to be continuously learning, to not shy away from the customers that are the most unhappy with you. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Now I've got probably more customers are going to ping me, but I welcome that. I feel like that's the best way for us to understand the limits of what we're shipping to customers and then start to kind of open our minds in terms of what we could build for them. So that's how I try anyway.
Would love it. And thank you so much for sitting down with me. And of course, as people are listening to this podcast today, there are a heap of big announcements coming from your event this week. So for anyone listening, wanting to read about some of those big announcements and everything we talked about, where should they be going? Anywhere you want to point them?
I think if they just go to Atlassian.com, we've got amazing coverage of the team event. I think all of the sessions are going to be streamed, and so they should be able to find everything that they're looking for there.
Awesome. Well, I'll add all the links so people can get hold of that stuff nice and easy. And we packed a lot into 30 minutes there, from cloud platform, enterprise AI, teamwork graph, system of work and product innovation. But right at the heart of it all, I think, beyond the technology, is that ability that we all need to rethink, change and evolve. And I love what you're doing here and washing it down with some real world examples of the kind of customer impact that you're seeing, as well as that future vision that you're heading towards. But more than anything, just thank you for sitting down with me today.
Thanks so much, Neil.
I think Tiffany reminded us today that Atlassian's approach to cloud, AI and the teamwork graph is about more than technology. It's actually about removing friction, unlocking creativity and designing systems of work that help people spend more time innovating, less time firefighting. So from those customer stories that we heard today to some of the bold product moves, I think we heard today how Atlassian is preparing teams to thrive in a future where AI is, let's face it, embedded into every single workflow. And with Team 25 happening live in Barcelona as I speak to you, it's a perfect moment to watch some of these ideas unfold on the big stage. So if you want to go a little bit deeper, you can tune into Team 25 to see the latest announcements and explore what human and AI collaboration really means in the way we work. But I'll leave you with this. As AI and cloud becomes inseparable from teamwork, what steps will you be taking to unleash what your team can do next? Please drop by techtalksnetwork.com, leave me an audio message, send me a DM on social channels, just at Neil C. Hughes. Love to hear your thoughts on everything we talked about. But thank you to Tiffany for taking the time out of her incredibly busy schedule doing their big event in Barcelona. And even bigger thank you to each and every one of you for listening. Speak to you tomorrow. Bye for now.